Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Marcia Pecker.
And we're here to tell you guys all about our experience at Halloween Horror Nights 2016. Now, we actually got to do a little bit of live coverage. Marcia was on Facebook Live, I was doing Periscope, and I'm assembling that probably into its own separate episode, but I thought we should get together and do a wraparound, especially because we didn't even get to talk about, I don't think, the Walking Dead experience or Texas Chainsaw Massacre in any specific updates.
I think we might have done The Walking Dead, definitely not the Texas Chainsaw.
So we're going to unpack basically the entire trip for you guys just real quick. We did, luckily enough, get there early enough to check out Harry Potter World for a little while. Marcia had never been to Universal Studios ever, and I hadn't been in a number of years, so that was entirely new, and we're both Potter fans, so that was fun. Mm-hmm. And then we did a bunch of the motion rides, which were a part of the Halloween Horror Nights experience, as it were. That just basically means they keep those rides open during the night as well. Yeah. So we got to do the Simpsons ride, the Mummy ride, the Transformers 3D ride, and
Jurassic Park in the Dark,
exactly. Which the long and short of those is the Simpsons still makes me sick. The Mummy ride still makes me sick. The Simpsons is a 3D big dome or half dome kind of experience, more than half dome really, 3/4 dome experience where the projection screen is so big that you do get the feeling of whoa when you're going down, even though you're not really going down.
Those tummy dips and stuff. It was amazing experience.
Exactly. And the Mummy was good. It was a speed coaster, but that is very much a descriptor because it was over like that.
It was it felt like 30 seconds. So it was longer than that, but it was.
It might have been a minute and 45, maybe. But that's including a stop in the middle of it. So I don't know. It's a little bit weird. It was okay, but again, still made me a little bit sick. Then we did the Transformers ride, which was actually pretty cool. It was sort of a mixture of the both.
Right.
There were a number of big screens that you were given 3D glasses in this one, but your cart actually moves in these weird directions and wavy motions, and
it was like you're riding one of the Transformers.
Yeah, you were supposedly in one that was trying to escape with the Allspark while Optimus Prime and Megatron were fighting right in front of you in a number of different ways, and Starscream shows up and a number of different other Transformers make a cameo, and it was really cool, but I was told that it would be easier on the stomach because the ride moves, and
poor Cecil.
It was really testing my fortitude, I'll tell you much. But the last one was Jurassic Park in the Dark, which I got super wet on.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Because I was in the worst seat.
And it was raining.
And it was raining the whole night, so that was actually fun, lucky for us. You can see in some of the live footage once we put the episode out that it was raining right when we were trying to film a lot of stuff too. So, but the actual ride was good for the most part, except there was some unfunctionality.
Yeah. There was the Jeep that was supposed to crash down
fall down the wall like it did in the movie.
Yeah, that wasn't working. And then when we started, it was going up. We were almost to the top, and then it was like, we're like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Was that supposed to happen? I don't really know. So
yeah, that was very unnerving.
I enjoyed all of the rides. I am a huge roller coaster fan, and I enjoyed all of the different experiences we had. Thank you, Universal, for letting us in early, even though we weren't supposed to go in as early as we did, but it was totally worth it, and we appreciate it.
It was a case of the employees going, nah, whatever, go ahead.
Whatever, you paid for front of the line, just go ahead.
So let's get into the Halloween Horror Nights of it all. I'm sure that's what you guys all tuned in for. So there were a number of mazes, and we'll go through them one at a time. Let's just hit them in the order that we did them.
All right.
Hit them in the order we did them. First off, what we did was the Krampus Maze.
Yeah.
And this was 3 miles from Central Universal Studios.
It was a long walk. And it was still daytime, and so we were like, oh, because we were trying to hit, because we had the front of the line passes, but we were trying to hit as many attractions as we could without having to use them. So we did the ones that were furthest away because they're the shortest wait.
Right. There were only about 10-minute waits at both that and Freddy vs. Jason, and that way we could go back and do them again later if we wanted. And so Krampus was first up, and honestly, when we arrived, it reminded me because they have, haunted houses here in Arizona, but they just sort of pale in comparison. I mean, they just absolutely pale in comparison rather than sort of. And when you walk up to the Krampus Maze, you can tell because it's a full house facade that they've decked out with snow. As soon as you step across the property line, it's like you're in a winter wonderland, except it's just not snowing at that particular moment.
And they had the lights lit up. Once it got dark, you can see all the lights. It was super cool.
It was neat, and there was a person standing out front that looked totally frozen, but he was one of those jump scare guys. But it was an excellent entree into the maze. And frankly, this is my second favorite maze of the entire trip. It was so good, and while the movie didn't blow me away, the maze did. Because there was a lot of great eerie things. Like, there were a couple of fireplaces with things happening. One of them, you just saw a couple of kids' legs kicking out of the bottom of the fireplace. And then another one, this little weird Krampus creature comes screeching out. And that was entirely strange. And then another part of the maze, the Joker creature with the mouth that opens up like this. They have a giant version of it sitting on a bed eating one of the performers.
And she's like, ah!
And then now, what about the jumpy aspect of the maze,
Marsha? Oh man, there was a lot of awesome jump scares with Krampus himself. It was great because they would do a lot of the corner ones where he would get you at one room and you go to the other one and he'd get you again, which if I was the actor, I would have been having so much fun in there. And you weren't expecting it. They did a great job hiding the actors and timing, because we were there earlier, so we actually got to time it a little bit.
Yeah, the later it goes, the harder it is to get actually scared, because there's so many people that they bunch up in the haunted houses. And any of you that have gone to haunted houses before know that this can happen. If the crowd is huge, you're so slow walking through the house that you see the performers doing their things before you can get there.
Well, that's not really the problem. The problem is when the lines get longer, because I worked in the haunted house and I understand this, and from that aspect, is that when the lines get really long and it gets to a point where they're like, just let them go, versus just saying, okay, you group of 6, you go, and then be able to space it out. Once it gets to the point where you just got to let them go and it's just person after person just walking through the house, you don't give the actors the amount of time they need to reset and scare and really give the audience the true the full attraction and effect, which is unfortunate. So I would be like, okay, we gotta slow down and let them reset, because I know they just scared somebody, so it's gonna take at least another 30 seconds before the scare comes. So if we just kind of like look around and slow down a little bit, then we can create
It was a
our
little
own
bit of a
experience.
blessing in disguise, because we had to go so slow in order to get the scares that we could take the time to look around almost every room.
It was worth looking at the rooms. They were gorgeous.
Because again, it's done at Universal Studios. So there's production value to all of the mazes. So there's everything in the maze is worth checking out in some way, shape, or form.
Good and bad were there.
Yeah, very much so. As a matter of fact, in the Krampus one, there was one of the good ones, actually, because we walked through the kitchen and they were pumping gingerbread smell in. And it was like, oh, this is crazy. And quite frankly, even though I saw the Krampus movie last year when it came out, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think it increased my appreciation for the movie, and it very much makes me want to go back and rewatch it. And I noticed that later when we walked by after doing the Freddy vs. Jason one, that they actually projected the movie on a huge screen for the big wait that was coming later in the night.
Right.
So that was really cool. Any last words on the Krampus Maze?
No, I think we hit it. I really enjoyed it. If they do it again, or if you're going to go before they close it up, definitely check out that maze. It was worth watching.
Definitely so.
Or going through.
Yeah. Now, we went to the Freddy vs. Jason maze next.
Yes.
Now, that one was really cool, and we actually got a bit of a tip from one of the employees before we went in. He's like, just so you guys know, there's 2 endings to this maze. So we went through, and this one was really good. We'll get to the ending in a second, but Marsha, what did you think of this maze? I'll let you start this one.
I really enjoyed this one. There was a lot of good setups for Freddy and for Jason. When you walk in, it's Freddy, and you got this whole, the 1, 2, the whole thing, and you're just like, ah! And there was a really cool one, because as you go through, you have Freddy, and then you have Jason, and then you have Freddy versus Jason.
Well, and they did a lot from the movie.
Yeah.
Like, they had Freddy torturing kid Jason at the early on of the maze, and then it progressed along like the movie did.
Right, and which was really fun to experience. There was one scare I really, really liked. They were behind this like glass they're both two behind this glass where they followed you. You walk in and they're like beating on the window, and then they followed you all the way to the end, and then they try to get you. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Because they were both through nets, and so they couldn't get you. And then as you walked to the end, you saw that there was a hole in the net on both sides, and you're like, you gotta like duck because they both reach for you and stuff.
Because I would even go back and forth just to mess with them, and they followed you.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. It was really a cool maze, and once you got to the end, just like the time we went through, just like the movie, it ended with Jason holding Freddy's head and Freddy's body just lying on the side. And this was probably my favorite scare of the whole night because it was the biggest one. It got us both the most. Because as we were walking through, I was like, oh yeah, it's just like the ending. And we were looking closely at Freddy's body, and then Freddy's body lunges at you, and he tries to grab at you. It's an actor just hiding below this built-up, chest piece. It was really cool, really effective scare.
Yeah, I was not expecting it.
And then a half hour later, they turn it over. They said every half hour the ending changes. Now, we didn't get a chance to go back and experience the other ending, but frankly, we had walked like 25,000 steps at that point, so we were running at the end of our rope, but. If you guys had to guess, just like we did, I imagine Freddy wins the other way around, has Jason's head, and then Jason does the same thing or something like that.
It's something similar, I'm sure.
It's a shame we don't know for sure, but, use your imaginations.
Yeah.
So, Marcia, what was the next thing we went to?
So, American Horror Story. I was actually really excited for this maze, but with the execution, I wasn't as thrilled as I was with the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
They did 3 seasons. They did the Murder House, Hotel, right, and
Freak Show.
So, it goes Murder House, Freak Show, and then the Hotel, which I was like, okay, that makes sense. Those are the 3 biggest ones that they had at the time. But when you walked in, my hopes was good. It was the house. You had Maddie sitting at the stairs. It wasn't an actress, which kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, it was.
It should have been an actress, but she was sitting there going, "You're gonna die in this house," which was cool. There's a lot of Tate scares, different. I call them Tate throughout all of the seasons, but there was the school massacre Tate, there was the full bodysuit Tate, there was the Freak Show. No, I don't think he was Claus.
No, he didn't have Lobster Boy, no.
But they did have the whole, like, H.H. Holmes one in the end. The scares were okay, but they weren't set up really as scares. It was just kind of more of an atmospheric kind of one.
You were really walking through the season more than getting jump scared, which is sort of appropriate for American Horror Story because it's not really known for its jump scares so much as the crazy atmospheric stuff. So the Murder House was okay. The first thing that happened, there were actually, I should take that back because the first scare that happened that was effective was a jump scare by the Gimp reaching through a wall.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was good. But then from there it started to shift a little bit. You walked by and you saw the doctor performing some kind of surgery down below, and in the basement rather, and then.
That was cool.
Yeah, but then the Tate character from Murder House was just kind of hanging out when we walked in the room and didn't really come after us. So again, I don't know if it was mistimed or whatever, but it was still cool to see because he was painted up in the skull makeup, just like
he
the school
did go after
scene.
Me, or at least one of
eventually,
them.
Eventually, no, yeah, he did.
He did have an axe, and he did like.
Yeah. Also, the scarred-faced man jumped out of a wall at one point, and. What was neat was they would play audio from the actual things, and this was true of all the mazes. So they would play audio from American Horror Story. So from that character, when he jumped out of the wall, they would play a line of dialogue that he said that was appropriate for him jumping out, even though that's not what happened in the show. The line of dialogue is appropriate, so you think they're saying it, even though the actors aren't. So it was cool, and then we got to Twisty in the Freak Show. They just basically leaned on Twisty the whole time.
Yeah, it was like 6 or 7 Twisties in a row, and some of them weren't even hidden. They're just sitting. There was like 4 in one room at one point. I was like,
yeah, it's just like it was not. I don't know. They just didn't work on the choreography that well on that one.
Yeah,
but he did look good. They looked good.
They did look good. I guess that's why I wasn't a big fan of Freak Show, is because they really only had one real like scary character in that whole thing. Well, I guess NPH would count, but that really doesn't really work that well.
He's like accidental scary.
Yeah.
But then we got to Hotel, and again, Hotel was just more atmospheric. We had the Lady Gaga character walking around a pram at one point, and they had cool curtains with like people's arms painted with the same pattern as the curtains. So when they did this, it was like the curtains were coming alive and coming at you. So that was kind of neat. But ultimately, it was, just not great.
It didn't really have the scare factor for me, or even really the production value wasn't as good as some of the other ones that we saw.
Right. And let's use that to segue into another, unfortunately, lackluster one, which was the Halloween Hell Comes to Haddonfield Maze, which somehow was touted as like one of the best ones. I don't know what happened. It was kind of brutal. There weren't that many great scares. It was modeled after Halloween 2. It was modeled after the second one, but it starts, the first room you enter is the conclusion of Halloween 1, because that is where Halloween 2 picks up. And it was a Dr. Loomis shooting a Michael Myers, and they would play the sound from the movie, and the actors would just have to mimic the timing of the sound effects. So the problem is the Donald Pleasance actor was just like, boom, boom, boom. He wasn't saying boom, but it was that lackluster. And Michael Myers was doing his, back and forth, getting hit with bullets and staggering back. But it was so, like, low energy. Yeah. And then the scares, like, the jump scares, the hidden areas weren't that hidden. It was all, like, just if there was a door in a room, you knew he was coming out of the door in that room. Yeah. So what did you think of this one?
I think there was... I can't really remember one time where I was all like, oh my God, because I was prepared for him. A lot of it is too is like I knew I kind of heard from the room before me, or I just saw them close something, so I'm like, oh man, that kind of ruined it for me. But then I just like, okay, I'm gonna wait another 30 seconds so I can at least try to get the scare. And like you're saying, like they had a lot of reenactment stuff versus the scare stuff. Like I really like it's a haunted house, and to me, like yes, you're basing it off of a movie, but that doesn't mean you have to take away most of the haunted house aspects where you have the scares.
Yeah. It was really more walking through seeing the Michael Myers aftermath from Halloween 2, because they did do a lot of the kills from the movie and it was just the dead bodies. So you'd walk through and there'd be the guy at the desk that got the needle in the eye. He's there, and that looks really cool, but there's no scares in that room.
I wanted to feel like Michael Myers was coming after me.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted to feel. That's what I paid my money.
It's actually not a bad idea for a haunted house where one guy is literally chasing you and you have to run your way through.
It doesn't have to be one guy. Like if you set up the rooms correctly, it could feel like the same guy is coming after you, but you have separate actors.
Well, they would just have, or if it was just the one, they'd have to train him to do like the bad guy, the clumsy bad guy move, where if the person they're chasing falls, they have to like fall too, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Halloween Hell Comes to Haddonfield was a little bit of a lackluster one.
Yeah.
So before we continue on in the houses, because we're going to get back into some good ones here, let's talk about the scare zones.
Oh, yay.
Now, Marcia, this was one of your top things, right?
Yeah, it really was. I had my top haunted house, and the scare zones is my top favorite things about the whole night. I'm totally worth it. The scare zones were awesome. I know Cecil was a little disappointed that there was only the purge, but I had so much fun going through the scare zones, and I would just like scream, and then they would like, ooh, fresh meat, and just start chasing me, and just like, I'm gonna stab you, I'm gonna get you with my chainsaw, and I'm like, ah, and I like literally at one point I'm like, I have to run, and they're like ganging up on me, and I just like run out of the whole thing laughing hysterically and screaming at the same time. It was so much fun because I felt like I was being interactive with the actors.
It turns out Marcia is one of those that when an actor at a haunted house sees that she's reacting this way, they're going to specifically focus on her.
Oh yeah, that's the best part of being in a haunt or being an actor in a haunt is when you get those that react, that you just go after them, because then everybody else starts reacting and it just gets everybody really pumped up, and that's half the fun.
And the Purge stuff was cool. They had the girl from the Purge election year, the little girl in the tutu, and the white, mask, and she had the hair buns right here. So
she's so cute.
Yeah, it was really good, and they could really attack you at any point, because the scare zones are essentially the areas in between the haunted houses. Yeah. So you can walk through them going from house to house and just get attacked by a bunch of different directions. Now, when I've gone in past years, every scare zone was a different one. But this year it was all The Purge, so maybe in recent years that's what they've been doing, and that's well and good, but yeah, I missed the variety of it. But it was still enjoyable to experience because each scare zone was set up differently.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah. They had the army guys, they had the biker guys, they had just the kids dressed up, they had the Europeans. At one point there was I think it was the George Washington character.
Yeah, the George Washington one was
or Uncle
freaky.
Sam or whatever it was.
He came running right at us, and that was
and I'm like, I voted for you! And I ran, and I was like, well, I guess technically I really didn't, but I would have.
All right, Marcia, so next let's get into the other sort of little bit of a disappointment, but not terrible, and that was the Walking Dead experience. Now, if you guys go to Universal Studios on a regular day and experience the Walking Dead experience, it's going to be awesome for you because it's going to be the only scare thing there.
Right.
The problem was, in my estimation, we had to compare it to all of the awesome houses that we were going through, and it just didn't live up to some of the stuff we were seeing. What do you think?
There were some really cool things to see. I mean, we went through the hospital. We got to see the werewolf trailers, and there was some really cool zombies like set up. They had these animatronic zombies hanging from inside the little
the truck, trucks,
and they were like moving.
They were wriggling and trying to bite at you and stuff.
It was so cool. But again, it was kind of that you're just walking through a Walking Dead set is what it felt like, versus they did have some zombies jumping out and stuff, but it just didn't feel as interactive as I would want from that experience.
No, I agree with you on that. And it was, I tell you, all the makeup was super on point.
On point.
Because every actor looked like a really good zombie, but it's so weird when, you know, the haunted house, like these other ones are set up for them to like sort of retreat into a hole, but when a zombie sort of shambles at you and just like bites at you and then turns around and starts shambling away, it's like, it's not that scary. And like, you need to, again, be in that chase mode where you got to get away. And
I think a part of it was because we were being herded by like cattle because there were so many people. I mean, the wait lines you're talking here about 70
by this
70
point,
minutes and to 70 to 100 minutes a wait time for the regular general admission. Get your front of the line passes, just saying.
Definitely worth it.
So I can see they wanting to push it along to try to eliminate the wait time. So I think if you had more time, it may have been a little bit more interactive, but I don't know. At the same time, unless they were chasing me from room to room.
Again, I think it would stand out a lot more if it's not surrounded by other really well done houses that they've created. So again, if you're not going during Halloween Horror Nights, you'll really like the Walking Dead experience.
I still think it's worth watching.
Because it's going to be a year-round haunted house. That's exactly what it was. It was just a new maze.
Right.
But they call it the Walking Dead experience because it's going to be year-round. So people can check it out at any point.
Yeah. I did have a couple people tell me, like, you know, to go, if you go, be in the front of the line and really take your time, and it's worth it. It's really worth it that they went through it a few times. So I think a lot of the issue that we're having when it comes to the interactive part was that there's just too many people.
That's entirely possible.
So we should, maybe if you go early.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So now let's finish off with the really good ones, Marcia. Yes. The Exorcist was the first one. You start off on this one.
Okay, I really enjoyed The Exorcist. When you walk up, you really have that atmosphere. You have the priest in the front, like standing all stoked. We actually took a picture of it. He's standing out in front of the house. And you start out with her, like obviously, it's not an actress, it's an animatronic, but she's going down the stairs in that backwards crawl that we...
And the upside down spider.
Yes. It was so cool, and you're going room to room and just kind of, and they do it right. It is a progression through the movie, but you got tons of scares going on. It was very interactive, and there was so much to see and take in.
And there was a lot of grotesqueness of the Linda Blair character. Like there was a lot of purple or gray big tongues coming out, and they had a levitating Reagan at one point that was really cool. And you walked through the movie on this one as well. So you start off with, you know, the young priest trying to do his thing, and the old priest is in another room trying to do his thing, and he actually flips some of the holy water at you.
Got me good.
And then, you know, eventually the old priest is dead on the bed with Reagan, you know, standing over him. And actually, I think this is the room where Marcia got to really experience the fourth dimension of the haunted houses at Halloween Horror Nights, which was the smell.
Yeah.
And that was the Reagan spinning her head around and spitting green mist in this
Yeah,
case.
they even showed it was like a green fog because it was obviously supposed to be the
pea soup.
Pea soup scene.
Exactly.
And, oh my God, did it smell bad?
It stank really bad. They
bad.
were pumping. They were pumping some Ludo-esque smells in there. But it was a really good maze, and it ended with the young priest actually was starting to get into the jump scares because he gets possessed at the end of the movie. Right. So he gets in on the action at the end of the maze. So it was really cool. It was a very appropriate progression from beginning to end of the house, along with the beginning to the end of the movie. Right.
I think they did a great job integrating the scares with the movie, with the special effects, and just kind of kept you wanting more. I could have been in there all day. It was really cool.
Definitely. So definitely check out the Exorcist one if you're gonna make it, you guys. But let's end on what was my, if not yours as well.
It was my favorite.
Yes, it was both of our favorite maze, and it was actually the last one that we ended up getting to for the night because we didn't hear anything super great about it. So we were like, oh, maybe it's just kind of so-so. We'll save it for the end and just hit it on our way out. And when we did, man, I was really glad that we saved it for the end because
if I had any more energy, I would have waited and gone through it again.
Yeah, because it was easily the goriest of all the mazes, and it made you feel like you were walking through where these insane characters live in Texas. At one point, I tell you what, my favorite part of it was probably the you exit a room and then you see part of a wall hollowed out into a roasting pit.
Oh, yeah.
That was a torso of a man impaled through the top, and he had his skin stripped off and his flesh was flayed, and he was being carved apart, and they had a red light and fog coming out behind, and they were pumping a gross roast meat smell into, and it really felt like, oh, this is really where they were carving bits off. It was so effective.
Have you ever been to a Brazilian restaurant?
Yeah, where they carve the meat off right onto your plate.
Yeah, you just see it just like spinning and cooking, and they take it down. Yeah,
that's what it looked like.
Yeah, but
and then at one point there was one of the chop top guys was. You know, he had a bunch of plates of barbecue in front of him.
When we entered,
he was tipping his finger in it and licking it, and then he was like, "Here, have some." And I was like, "Oh God, no!" It was so gross.
He was all like, "No, thank you," and he goes, "Kill that guy."
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, and then here comes Leatherface.
Leatherface comes barging out of the wall and comes right at me, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And we rushed into the other room.
Get the F out of my house. And we're like, okay.
I forgot about that. I insulted him by denying the barbecue.
That really set the tone for me. I was like, yes, this is what I want to see walking into a haunted house, especially a themed one like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I mean, these people are crazy, and you really, really put you into the spot when you start off that way. I love the gore. Like, they had buckets of intestines and brains and stuff.
Eyeballs and faces.
Oh, God. And the hanging bodies everywhere.
There
he actually swung a body at me and hit me in the head. I was like, dude, seriously.
It was because they were gross and sticky.
You didn't want to touch it.
And some of them had heads, and some were missing limbs, and some were just torsos. And
some were dead pigs.
And they had a woman dummy on the hook that was still shaking.
Oh, that was great.
Oh man, it was just chock full of everything you want to see as a horror fan, and in the most gruesome of ways.
Yeah, and the scares were out of this world. I was like, yeah.
Well, there's nothing worse than a chainsaw guy coming at you.
Well, chainsaw is my number one. Okay, I gotta get a GTFO or whatever.
Well, not only that, but Leatherface, the king of all chainsaw wielders. You don't want to be around him, so. He was all over the place with chainsaws. It was awesome. It was great.
Yeah.
So,
highly recommended. Don't overlook that one.
It rounded out the night, you guys. Yeah. Halloween Horror Nights was a tremendous success for the horror show in 2016. Yeah. We are fully intending to go back next year if we can possibly arrange it and hopefully bring a larger contingent of the show. But I'm glad I got to go with Marcia. It was so much fun.
I'm so glad we did it.
It was great. So if you guys get a chance, check it out. Universal Studios Hollywood or Orlando, they both have iterations of Halloween Horror Nights. We went to Hollywood and it was great.
Maybe
fun.
We should go to Orlando next year.
We also did the Terror Tram, where we
Oh,
were
the
chased.
yeah,
Yep,
and we got
forgot
to
about
take
that.
a picture with Norman Bates and
Yep,
for the Psycho
take a picture of
House.
Norman Bates. The Terror Tram was curated by Eli Roth, where it's the typical studio tour on the tram, except they deck it out with evil clowns this year chasing you all over the place.
It was super cool.
It was cool as well. But all in all, tremendous success.
Yes, thank you so much, Universal. We paid for it to go, but I'm glad you created it.
We got access to more than we thought we would.
Yes,
so thanks for that.
I really appreciate it. And maybe we'll be able to go to Orlando next year and see what the difference is.
That might be interesting. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our coverage for the Halloween Horror Nights 2016, you guys. Happy Halloween. We're presenting this on Halloween. Thanks very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Marcia Parker.
And until next time, remember,
Stay scared.